it is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. And we're zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question. And that was really sort of it was coming from the self-doubt phase, where her husband, who is essentially a covert narcissist, where he has not really spoken to her, shown her any affection for years, not a very communicative guy, extroverted guy, kind of keeping to himself, and sort of giving the explanation that, well, maybe this is just his personality. Maybe he is just kind of a reclusive type. Maybe he doesn't have a lot to say. Maybe he's just sort of quiet. He's a strong and silent type. Maybe that is all that he is, and perhaps I'm being too hard on him, yet I feel like he's not really present with me in the relationship. He's in the house, but it feels like a dead space, and basically the silence and the coldness is just growing more and more, and it's becoming more of a rift between them, especially since she's a very vibrant lady, likes to go to social gatherings, get together with her family, her grandkids. And yet this individual is kind of not really there. Even though they're physically there, the lights are turned on, they're not really there. And so, really it's understanding why is this covert narcissist behavior, and why is this so destructive and so hurtful? And why does it cause one to really kind of feel like the self-blame takes center stage? And that is because of a couple of reasons. For one, the covert narcissist is adept at withdrawing or withholding information. I'll say that again. The covert narcissist is adept at withholding and withdrawing of information. So it is not that they don't know, it's just that they don't. They know how to communicate, they can communicate, they have oftentimes a lot of intelligence, but they just withhold information. They hold it back. They hold back communication. They feel that they don't have to do this. They don't have to say hi. They don't have to see how your day was. They don't have to see how you're doing when you're sick. It's not a requirement. They would much more rather just, save the energy for themselves and their self-inflated ego, which even though it's quiet, it becomes like a silent rage. It becomes like the silent killer, if you will. Because it is the absence of attention, absence of affection, which creates really sort of a double whammy. And then, of course, an individual, if they're with them for prolonged periods of time, guess who has to be the enabler? Guess who has to be the one who's proactive? Guess who's the one who has to have the energy, the exertion, the leadership to go and ask, well, what's wrong? How are you? It's like pulling teeth from this individual just to get any sort of feelings, just to get any sort of conversation. And oftentimes people then interpret this as if, if you can't say anything positive, don't say anything at all. Well, a lot of people then turn it around and then inadvertently assume that they're not talking to them because there must be something wrong with you, so I'm not just going to speak up. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to acknowledge you. I'm not going to validate you. I'm just going to walk by you. I'm going to blow right by you. I'm going to have all this going on in my life. I'm going to, seemingly have the appearance of having, my life together, my work, my kids, whatever, but there is a disconnect, a disjoint of communication, and it's because it is this silent killer. It is the withholding of information. It's like the withholding of emotional food. Eventually, the other person in the partnership gets so starved, it's like the quiet begins to ring louder until the point where it's just like, it's like a tinnitus, where it's like there's no clock there, but you hear the ringing. It's like they're so quiet that it speaks volumes. And it begins basically to be like a very aggressive silence. And most people, it's like they're so starved for attention that they're going to want to pounce at them what's wrong with you, and then start yelling and clamoring and fighting. And then next thing you know, the rest of the family and everyone else thinks that they're crazy. Why are you doing this to good old dad? Or why are you doing this to, grandpa? Why are you doing this to mom? Whoever the covert narcissist, why are you doing this to my sister? There's nothing wrong. They're just a quiet, silent type. They don't really know the prolonged, deadening silence and lack of attention, lack of eye contact that creates the emotional starvation, the psychological deprivation, the sort of chill, the sort of very, a lot of people feel that this is more dangerous than the overt narcissist because, at least that their ego is, bigger than life and they wear it on their sleeve. They're, they've got that, big ego personality. And so it's easy to see, and they'll even tell you, oh, I'm the best, or in so many words, that they're very arrogant, outwardly arrogant, but it's like a quiet sort of deadening arrogance that they sort of just kind of shun you off as if, you're not even worthy of the air that should be breathed right now. I mean, they sort of emanate and project that sort of very hostile, but very still hostility, which really tends to run strong, low, and deep. And, basically it implodes on people and they say, what is wrong? And these people can, basically lie with a lot of facility, even though they seem so nice, so quiet, or like the strong and silent type who you might, put together with that sort of characters, together, lab that together. And so it is then that imploding and then causes other people to feel not only are they missing out in the relationship and they're not receiving what, reciprocity of what they're giving, they feel unacknowledged, but then there's that double layer of self-imploding and that negative self-evaluation. Well, there must be something wrong with me. This person is so quiet. They're not ever talking to me. They're not interested in me. And then it becomes even deeper. I'm not worth the air. I'm not worth the ground that being spoken on, until eventually you are ending up then approaching them. What is wrong with you? How can I help you? And then they're not very open. Covert narcissists particularly are not very good communicators. And when they do, they have a very superior sense, like they know, there's always going to be some little gleaming aspect of them. For my age, I should be this way. For my status in life, I should be this way. For my intelligence, they're always going to have some sort of induced reason why they're superior than, everybody else. And like a viewer questioned, do they tend to take out, more than one people? Well, the covert narcissist will be particularly disdainful of those people who kind of, rock the boat or question the status quo. In other words, the people who are really making innovative changes. Oftentimes these very people can be very conservative and yet very progressive at the same time. It's a conundrum. It's a real mystery. It's a real enigma. But these people will tend to definitely target those people who are happy, go lucky, doing well, no holds barred, sort of, in that way. But in those people, it's just, they'll try to get in that very little, it's just like it's like a Chinese water torture. It's just becomes so, it becomes so hostile. It becomes so, what is the word that I'm looking for? Ludicrous. It becomes so painful in sort of a ridiculous way that it's just like you're going to just start to confess all sorts of things that aren't even wrong. Like people just start spewing out, stop and getting beside themselves and feel like they're going crazy, just like in like you've heard, Chinese water torture where it's just a drip of water, but over again and again and again, it just drives people crazy. It's because of the repetitiveness and the monotony and then the question and the dulling and how they put it, on your forehead. So if you have been in this state, just realize it is a covert narcissist emotional manipulation, and it is what it is. It only goes as far as their nose. I mean, just, realize that these people are not open to communication, discussion, just unfortunately, the number one people who they target also are those people who are very vivacious and very vibrant, and then, enjoy relationships. So there's no interaction. It's just like, oh, you think you can be my friend by being yourself, by being happy. Well, I'll show you who's boss. I mean, that's the covert narcissist, trying to show you nothing, and then think that they're showing you everything. It's a real sort of maniacal twist that is very sort of, it's sort of a very dark narcissistic quality when you really truly think about it. It's the withholding that makes people starve and then question and get that whole psychological manipulation loop. And then people, spend, they get sucked in and they spend years trying to figure out what's wrong with them when there's really nothing wrong with them. It's just that they're around a narcissistic individual who has not given them what they need and deserve as a living, breathing human being. It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. And I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.